I just had to show you guys how simple this thing is. There's literally 4 body mount bolts, the 2 tie rod ends, and then the 3 studs on each strut top to hold this in. It's nuts. Let me kind of tell you guys what my plan of attack is with this. I'll just pull the subframe out, put it up on the fab table, figure out how I'm gonna get the engine to mount, and then think about what we're gonna do for a differential to transfer the power from a chain to a differential to CV axles. One thing I'm really worried about with this is there isn't a ton of room. The width is good compared to the CBR. Everything should be fine width-wise. It's the far backness, if that makes sense. This is really interesting. It's got a convex and a concave socket. So the differential has like an actual dome type mounting flange. And then it just has this little tab that's mounted underneath the bolt, and you just bend up the tab to hold the bolt to keep it from backing out. I'm sure this is more common than what I think, but I've never seen anything like this on a Honda before. So I thought it was kind of neat. Now that we got the subframe here on the table, I want to show you how simple the suspension is. So we've got a McPherson strut, a simple lower control arm, just a regular ball joint on the end. The knuckle is very similar to the first gen Civic, except for the bearing retainers on the back instead of the front. I thought it was kind of weird. I took the axle out and the hub just fell right off. The hub's actually just floats on the axle. So yeah, there's that. Now I'm in a dilemma here. Do I build a whole new subframe, or do I just use this and then modify it to work? At first I wanted to build a whole new subframe, but now I'm looking at this thing's pretty stout. I mean, it's made out of heavy stamped steel. It's not like the subframe that was on the 79 where it was super thin. It only had a couple points where it was welded. This thing's got quite a bit of spot welds on here, if you can see them. And they're the heavy ones. They're not the little tiny baby. These things are 1/4 inch, 3/8 in diameter, and they're on the ID and the OD. I also could go around and gusset this up and make it a little bit more rigid. And I think these mounts here would be helpful, whether it be to mount the engine or the radiator or something. Plus, I like the way that these little saddles fit these bushings. So it's not, I would have to design my own bushing setup here, and that's very time consuming. Plus, I kind of want to drive this next year. I know I've been saying that about the 79, but I really would like to drive this car. And I know if I keep adding more work, it's just going to take longer. Believe me, it'll be glorious either way. And this also could be something I upgrade down the road. If I decide to leave it the way it is and modify it, I could maybe build our lighter weight one down the road. Anyway, we'll see what works, because we'll throw the engine up there, and one of these members might be right in the way and needs to be removed and redesigned. And I mean, at that point, we'll reevaluate and see what we're gonna do. But I'm gonna take these struts off real quick. I want to use the factory knuckles. I haven't really looked into suspension for this car yet. It sounds like it's going to be a difficult task, but oh well, we'll figure it out. Okay guys, so I threw the motor up in the subframe here. I envisioned the motor fitting a certain way, and I built these little temporary brackets. You can see in this one here. I mounted the engine up. I did a little bit of pre-production and put it in the car. Did not fit even close. So I really wanted to keep this factory subframe, but it looks like we're gonna have to ditch it. The engine needs to be way farther this way. So we're gonna have to remove this, and at that point, it's like, I'm gonna have to build a tube or something to go. I would rather just connect the dots basically with tubing and just build my own frame. That way we have all the room in the world, and we're gonna need it when it comes to the chain drive system. We're gonna have a differential with a chain sprocket on it, and we're gonna have to cut a massive chunk out of the firewall, which is really gonna suck because that's gonna end up right by the gas pedal. So I'm gonna have to build some thick wall, like armored plated box, so that chain, if it ever breaks, doesn't hit me in the foot. So after a minute, I got this all leveled up. I use these little jack stands that I made. See how the motor's obviously not level, but the frame is level. So the reason why I did that is so that I could pull some dimensions off the holes so I could design my own subframe. So I actually went ahead and made one in my bending software. You can tell it looks mighty similar to the one that's there already. So what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna make some mounting cups for the 4 mounting holes, and then we'll have to bend some tubing to kind of match the structure we got here. The only thing I'm not really sure about is this back part, and that's because we're gonna mount our diff and our chain set up there. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build the kind of like a U shape. So we'll do the front part, the sides, and then the connections back here, and this will just be open for now. And then we'll figure out what we're doing as far as chain, the chain mechanism, and then how we're gonna mount the engine. I hate to leave you guys hanging, but that's all I've got for this episode. Next week, we'll get the subframe built, and then we'll get the engine mounted up, and then we'll start getting in the car. That way we can build our manifolds and then get our chain system going. Let me show you my parts table real quick before I send you off. So here's the parts I've collected for the swap. We got our stainless elbows for our exhaust manifold, some stainless straights, our turbocharger, along with some aluminum piping, some silicone couplers, our fuel cell, a Marlboro 255 fuel pump, along with some random stuff for the harness for the CBR. We got a new clutch and a water pump on its way. The only thing I think we're missing is a radiator, intercooler. We've got to build an intake manifold. I'm sure there's miscellaneous wiring and fuel lines and stuff like that we still got to get, but everything else we've got to build. Oh, and the stuff for the CV axles we've got to make still. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.